Hey, everybody. Hey, I love making these videos. So thank you so much for watching them. And I really hope you've learned something this week. So today we're going to talk about how to lead with your hands. Okay, wow, that's deep there. So let's talk about it. So this is our third video out of Head, Heart, and Hands. And yeah, once again, I hope you just enjoy this and this really inspires you to lead with your hands. So we're going to talk about servant leadership today. We're going to talk about being a role model. We're going to talk about qualities of great leaders. So according to wikipedia.com, a servant leader shares power. They put the needs of employees first, and they help people develop, and they perform as highly as possible. Okay, wow, that's a lot. Servant leadership inverts the norm, which puts people as the main priority. So instead of the people working to serve the leader exists to serve the people. I want all of you to become servant leaders wherever life takes you, and really inspire people to serve others. All right, awesome. Quick story here. In college, I would frequently go to a famous local restaurant that had really good food, high reviews, always crowded. And I went often, so I really got to know the boss, and I really got to know the different workers there. I remember the boss was always dressed up in a tie, right, like a pretty good looking guy. And I was like, oh, wow, like he's really just a great leader. And I remember like there's so many different workers. Like there's this guy who would always clean up after like we'd leave. Like I'd see him and I'd say hi. He was an older fella. And then like there's some younger people there as well. And one day after eating there many different times, I asked the manager, hey, how often does the owner ever stop by? And like, what does the owner look like? And the boss told me, or the manager at the time, who was the boss, he said, hey, he's here almost every day. And I think I saw you talking to him last time. I'm like, who are you talking about? And he pointed to the guy who was busting our table. He's the owner? Yeah, he's the owner. And he loves being here, and he loves helping out, and he loves serving people. But he's never ever introduced himself as the owner. He just loves what he does. To me, that was inspirational. Someone who loves to do what they do, someone who shows up every single day for work, someone who's not afraid to do the difficult work, someone who's humble and not a show off, someone who leads through their service and through their example. That to me is a great leader, a leader who serves with his or her hands. Awesome. Let's talk about being a role model who influences. So you have to understand that if you want people to do something right, then you should do it yourself. Don't just tell them to do something. You should be the role model and to tell them, here are the expectations, and I'm going to live it out. No one likes hypocrisy. No one likes laziness. All right, at all. Be a role model of your own expectations. I love that right there. So take a look at that. So it's hard being a leader sometimes. Anyone who's been a leader knows that it's hard. Why? Because we're held to a higher standard. And that sometimes is enough for you to say, I don't want to do this anymore. But remember, so always know that people are always watching what you do, etc. But remember, it's an honor. It's a privilege to be a leader. You get a platform that a lot of people don't get. It's such a great learning opportunity, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself and other people. And finally, it's the goal of many others to be at your level or to be the leader. All right. So remember that it's a privilege. All right. In high school, it's really interesting. So up to this point in my life, I've never used drugs or tried drugs, and I've never used or tried alcohol ever in my 30 years of life. Now, it all began in high school too, where the peer pressure was high. Like, I gotta be real with you. And I've got stories that I tell. The peer pressure was high. But in that moment, why did I not do these things that were offered to me? Well, one, a lot of people looked up to me. And I realized that if I start doing stuff that is irresponsible, then other people are going to be affected. Because if Mr. Chow does it, right, then they may be more likely to do it as well. I realized my influence on others. With great power comes great responsibility. Love that quote, but it's so true. And honestly, it was never something that interested me. I never had any interest on like, hey, what does it taste like? What does it make me feel like? No, I was just happy who I was. And now, as a soon-to-be father, I hope to share with my son how I didn't need to do these things to enjoy life or make memories growing up. Look, if you consider yourself a leader, then you can be firm in your values because you're a leader, and that's what leaders do. Finally, I want to finish off with qualities of great leaders. Okay, so first things first, hard work. That, in my opinion, is one of the greatest qualities of great leaders. Your full effort is important. From start to finish, you keep going. It doesn't matter if your whole group has stopped. You keep going, and you finish what you started. Endurance, okay, stamina. You, as the leader, should be putting in the most work, and I truly believe that. In all my programs that I am in charge of right now, all my people are pulling their weight. All of them are. But in addition to that, I'm pulling my own weight, and I need to do the work. I can't just delegate it and say, all right, I've done this long enough. Now it's your turn. Sure, maybe eventually I can do that a little bit, but as the leader, I need to also inspire them to keep going, but through my work ethic. Let's talk about humility. As much as you want to, try not to ever brag about your hard work. All right. Sure. Sometimes I tell my students, hey, like I spent this much time grading this or something like that. But a lot of what I do, my students don't even know. Why? Because they don't need to know. They just need me to show up every day as a teacher, put in the work, put in the effort to create a great lesson and teach them. I don't need to talk every day about, hey, take a look at this and what I'm doing. No. Right? Sometimes it's good to share a little bit, but once again, not all the time. You've got to value. Okay, so it's really interesting. I heard a quote like a few years back, actually, where it said, "What is humility? Humility is not thinking less of yourself." Okay, so think about that real quick. It's not thinking less of yourself. You know, I feel like I got this wrong in high school for me, because whenever someone would say, "Wow, great job, and you're such a great leader," I would go, "No, not me." Because I would think that humility is not accepting all those compliments, but that's not what humility is. So here's a quote: humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility is just thinking more of others. So as long as you are thinking of others more than yourself, you can stay humble. You can still have humility. And remember, your actions speak louder than your words. So keep that in mind. Finally, integrity. I have a lot to say about this. So here's a little preview. Maybe in the future, like we'll talk more about this. Integrity is really what you do when no one's watching. And trust me, as much as you try to cover it up, the real you will always show over time. Guaranteed. So that's why I'm so big on building up your character, on teaching you how to reflect on what you're currently doing. If you've done something you're not proud of, then, like you're forgiven. Like, that's fine. That's the past. Go forward and change. You're not defined by your past. You're defined by what you do on a daily basis. Don't take shortcuts even when you can as a leader. That's what leaders do, right? So many times I see leaders take shortcuts and like they tell their people, hey, like just look the other way or like just act like you didn't see it. No. That's not what we do as leaders. Even if it hurts us, we don't take the shortcut. Look, if you've enjoyed this week of learning the head, heart, and hands, please continue with us next week. Next week, we're going to talk about what would you do. So I'm going to give you a lot of scenarios of if you're a leader and this situation popped up, what would you do? And I'm going to have you think about it. And then I'm going to tell you what I would do in that situation. Thank you for listening to this. And I hope you learned.